Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, back again with another Steven Universe discussion with PhoenixPen.
Hi everyone!
So yes, we saw the Steven Universe event, Into Deep. It's a Steven bomb, except it wasn't aired as a Steven bomb, but it kind of fits the trappings of 5 episodes that are tied together in some way. Or, I mean, some episodes are tied together and then other episodes are tied together. We'll talk about that. So yes, we're going to give another long discussion. Before we jump into the individual episodes, first, we got some things to address. I shouldn't call it a leak. I call it a leak because I'm like an American, the stupid American that is insensitive to other cultures. But really, it was just aired in another country. And so the last 3 episodes, plus one that was not in this Into Deep, were aired in France. Did you watch the spoiled version or the French version?
So yes, the second I heard that it was somewhere online, I just assumed that somehow it got leaked. Then I realized it was just on an international schedule, but all of it was already online, and I was already getting spoiled by certain screenshots. I just decided to take myself out of that game of trying to avoid spoilers and don't give me any spoilers. Don't go on the online Twitter or Reddit. Don't go on YouTube because all the thumbnails are spoilers. So I just decided, no, I don't want to be part of this game. I can't do this for basically, 4 weeks. I'm going to just watch them all, not spoil it for everyone. I posted it on Twitter. Hey, everyone, it's out there. Just so you know, if you are trying to avoid it, now be on your guard even more so. So I watched them all, and I rewatched them more recently, and that was my philosophy going in. But I would have been happy watching it each week if it wasn't for the fact that they were all kind of out there already, and they're going to probably circulate it.
Yeah, I respect that. I watched it as it aired, and I still haven't seen Stephen Floats. We're not going to be talking about Stephen Floats. She has...
Spoiler warning for Stephen Floats. It's like, no, we don't talk about Stephen Floats.
No, please don't comment it and ruin it for me, guys. I watched it naturally. I had a few things spoiled, thankfully not much. One was spoiled like hours before the episode aired, but whatever. Yeah, I was happy with how Cartoon Network aired it, but unfortunately it was kind of undercut. I wish the international schedule kind of got on the same board, but I don't know how complicated that is, coordinating with all these different countries. But I do feel like it kind of ruins some things in some way because it splits the fandom. Who can talk about what? Like, can I talk about this openly? Well, it's out there. Who do I have to worry about spoiling? Should I see it? Should I not see it? It's frustrating. I wish everything would just air at the same time everywhere all the time, but that's not how things work. All right, so then spoilers, obviously, but not for Stephen Floats. Also, another warning, you might hear some negative opinions in this video. You probably will. There will be certain maybe controversial things, maybe just negative aspects, maybe even negative feelings about a whole episode. I don't know. Well, I kind of do know. But you're going to hear that, and I just want to say up front that I still love the show. I'm sure PhoenixPen still loves the show. And just because we talk about negative aspects, even if we talk about whole negative episodes, that doesn't mean that we hate the show or that the show is awful or that the writers are awful people or anything like that. If we're going to critique a show that we love, just like we'd critique a show that we hate or disliked or felt weird and different to, I think it's only fair to be critical and to be honest and to not just give into this show is perfect, circle logic that some people might give into. We're going to be honest, and we're not going to say, oh, but it's okay that this mistake we don't have to justify it. I'm saying right now up front that I still think the show overall is a very good thing. And even in the episodes that I have some negative things to say, most of them I also have very positive things to say. Anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, we enjoyed the show, and please don't think that if you talk negatively about a show, then you're going to cause the show to get canceled or something bad's going to happen to the show. You have to be always vigilantly happy and positive and optimistic to have programs you like.
You're not on a team, I'm sorry, but I see some people that are like, yeah, Team Steven Universe, take that Adventure Time. And it's like, that's not how it works.
The people who have different opinions that are not the consensus don't cause bad things to happen. It's just a weird vibe that sometimes comes off when you're inside of an echo chamber where it's like, don't say anything bad because whatever. We love the show anyways, and we love talking about it, and we'll still continue to watch it. So yeah,
and sorry we had to give this warning. I know to a lot of you this is like redundant and pointless, but there are some younger people and some people in general that do kind of take this stuff very seriously and think that if you say something negative, you hate it, or you know, you're just like you turned against Steven Universe, and that's obviously not the case. So with that out of the way, are you ready to talk about Super Watermelon Island?
Yes. Such an interesting and crazy name, but they all have very fun names in this kind of group of episodes.
Yes. This
yeah, just keep going.
We see what's been going on with the Melon Stevens. We also see what's been going on with Malachite and the crystal gems form Alexandrite to fight her. The first thing that really struck me about this episode, at first I was like, wait, is this an episode that's not from Steven's perspective? Like what mad Oh, I see what you did there. He's like inhabiting a watermelon person.
Yeah, and the first thing I thought is, I wonder when was the last time we saw the watermelon people? And I looked back into the episode listings. So it's been actually a year and a half to set up this watermelon society and sentient watermelon people until basically this payoff of Watermelon Island. But that's real time. That might not be Steven Universe time, but in real time.
How many years has it been since Malachite was mentioned on this show?
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like interesting. It took literally a year and a half for this watermelon concept to pay off. And yeah.
We knew it would. I mean, like I never thought that they're just going to drop this melon concept, especially because this name was floating out there for a while. Obviously, we had no idea that it was going to be like Malachite's big episode. But yeah, we knew the melon people were coming back. I think it'd be weird if the Crewniverse just dropped them entirely.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I thought about after watching the episode is it does have a weird implication about Steven taking over the body of a watermelon person, and why did he just suddenly be able to dream into that perspective?
Yeah,
and there's also chicken watermelon and dog watermelon. Just like, okay.
here's a thing. Okay, here's a negative thing that I'm gonna bring up that's relevant to both this and Gem Drill. Steven has convenient powers. Very convenient powers, in fact. So convenient that a lot of times they just manifest right when he needs them.
Yeah, definitely being able to dream into a consciousness of a sentient watermelon person is a very unique and acute power to suddenly use in this right moment. But
yeah.
Whatever, it's fine. It would be cool if it showed up again.
I'm just a little concerned that I don't want this show to fall into like protagonist gets new powers like every 5 episodes syndrome, where I mean, it's cool that Steven has all these powers, but at this point he's got a lot of powers. Like if he really tried to use them, you know, he can, well, I guess he doesn't have control over very many of them, but he does have a lot of powers. And I don't know. I think this was something that maybe should have been set up just a little earlier. I could have done with a whole episode about the watermelon people before introducing the Malachite concept.
Right. So let's go to the Malachite whole fight. So we have Alexandrite fighting Malachite, which is a mouthful, but also very cool. Huh?
Did you say Malachite?
Oh, no, I didn't say Malachite. That's not totally a real thing that I doodled in the corner. No.
That's I ship Malachite, actually. It's Malachite and a melon person.
Well, they do have stripes and they're both kind of green, so they're meant for each other. Now kiss.
That was good. Yeah. That was a good color theming of, you know, the Malachite. But yeah, the big Malachite fight, of course, I got to talk about it. It was awesome. I think it's probably the best fight in Steven Universe so far.
Yeah, I mean, it was really great, and I like the weapon combos when they had all the
very cool
gem weapons, and they're actually looking like they're getting better at fighting as this fusion, maybe.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Okay, so what I was told about Alexandrite, so I had a theory, and my theory is totally wrong. My theory was just that basically Alexandrite was a manifestation, the show's kind of representation of missing Rose, and that fusion of just the 3 of them was kind of doomed to fail no matter what, and it needed Steven to not be Alexandrite, but to be the other fusion, the temple fusion or whatever, and that was the good fusion. But I was wrong. But apparently, the reason why Alexandrite failed in the other episode was just because it had to be a weird dinner party that none of them were really that into. In this case, they really had a singular goal, and they were able to pull it off. And it was so cool to see all of their weapons, all of the fusion weapons, and then also fire breathing, I guess, from Ruby. That's what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
It was cool. It's a cool fight. There's not really too much else to say beyond that. I thought it was cute the way they had Steven help with the melon people. Like, hey, yeah, take a stand. Nothing like amazing or mind-blowing. But I like that they kept Steven himself out of the fight. Not just for the setup for the next episode, but also because he's not ready for this kind of fight. Like, he would have just been there just awkwardly standing by.
Yeah, but the fight was really cool, and the defusing sound effect is actually very reminiscent of the Pokeball sound effect. That sound, I was like, that's so familiar, and you can look it up online. The defusing kind of psh sound sounds like getting popped out of a Pokeball. And I'm like, wow, what an interesting callback for some weird reason. So okay, after that fight, let's talk about how they defused, and we have Jasper and Lapis kind of passed out.
So this is a problem that I've spoken about before. Is that okay? So they had this with Peridot, where Peridot was able to escape the crystal gems like. I believe it was 3 times where the gems look like they did nothing to try and go after her. And similarly, Jasper just like slowly falls into the crevice. Like Garnet doesn't try to use her stretchy hand power that they always forget she has. Amethyst doesn't sonic spin dash over to her. Pearl doesn't, I don't know, like throw her spear to try to pierce Jasper and get her to stick to the, the ground or something. No one tries anything. They're just like, oh, well, there goes Jasper.
Yeah, that sucks. It really does, because I think more than Lapis and Peridot, Jasper is an extremely interesting homeworld gem that people were just waiting to explore. Like, people have so many thoughts about her. They want to know more about, she has the most to learn from Earth and the most, aggressive personality, and I don't want to wait another year until we see her again when she randomly emerges at some point. I'm like, no, I want to know more about Jasper, because we get to explore Peridot for so many episodes. And Lapis also, I guess, has more appearances and kind of, we know her personality, what she's been through with the Mirror Gem and Jailbreak. And then, Jasper is just this kind of theoretically, we know something about her based on her lines, but nope, there she goes into the water mantle, wherever.
Here's the thing, I understand narratively why they did this, because first of all, at this point they're up to 2 kind of sort of West Coast Titan gems or whatever you want to call them. We're busy exploring Peridot, finishing up exploring Peridot, and we're busy exploring Lapis. So Jasper would be a bit much, but people did want to see something from her, even just a line. And the fact, it bugs me that they didn't try to get her. And I know that doesn't sound like it's that important from a story conceit, but it feels like it was just like, well, the writers just put Jasper gets written out of the story here. Period. That's it. That it feels like such an obvious, you got to get rid of this character somehow. So let's just dump her down, the earthquake. And the other problem is that because of the Steven perspective thing, how do we learn more about Jasper unless the crystal gems capture her? The only other thing I could picture is if Jasper kidnaps Steven, which would be cool. And Steven learns about her more through that, and the gems come and rescue him. Because otherwise, we're going to have another Peridot situation. It's going to be the same exact story, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't want it to be the same thing where it's like, I'm bad and I'm evil. We got to get her. We got to get her. Oh, no, she got away. Oh, no, she got away. Oh, no, she got away. And then finally, oh, we captured her. Why are you so mean? Because I hate you guys. No, you should love us and Earth. It's like, oh, God, okay, we've done this. But just don't do it in a year.
How do... And I think the answer might be that Jasper finds a human and hangs out with a human. I mean, that's less likely now that she's very far away from Beach City, but...
Yeah, but we like Jasper. We want to see her more. It sucks that she kind of slid away from us. Goodbye, Jasper.
Yeah. So I liked I mean, I think overall I was happy with the episode. I liked the fight scene was cool. The watermelon people was like an interesting twist on it. Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much else to say beyond that. I think you had a favorite line.
Yeah, well, there's two lines I really enjoyed. I really like the line, "Isn't your thing to rebel," which is Peridot just having really good zingers and like just good character work. Whoever's like, writing her lines, like it seems like a lot of the episodes just give her a lot of fun fuel, just like commenting on the situation, commenting on the whole crystal gems and earth and everything. Is so funny. Peridot gets a lot of great lines.
It's a level of self-awareness that like they gave Zuko when I know this is like a weird comparison, but in Avatar when Zuko spoilers, I guess I don't know, it's just 10 years old now. When Zuko flips sides to Team Avatar, he's making like references like, "Sorry, I tried to shoot you down with fireballs." How do I say this? Like it's a self-aware kind of like, this is a weird situation I'm in, and I'm just gonna try to make light of it because that's all you can do in this weird situation. And then you had another line. Oh,
the ending line, which is, I think if you wanted to compare it to how serious, dark, and kind of mysterious and creepy the teaser promo was with the, In Too Deep, this ending line where you see the crystal gems kind of giving Steven motivation as he wakes up. He's like falling asleep as the watermelon person, waking up back at the drill.
He kind of fades out, is how I'd describe it, or fades back into being Steven, I guess. What I love about the "We Love You" line is that they do the really they do the star fade they do at the end of most episodes, but it's like really slow and it's got a little bit of a different effect to it, and that makes it really powerful because it's just kind of like you're seeing the gems leave, and now Steven is alone or with probably less useful than him, Peridot.
Yeah, that line when it's like, "And Steven, we love you," it's like, oh my gosh, that gave me chills. It's so, I mean, it's supposed to be very genuine, but it comes off like slightly like, like creepy.
Yeah.
Like something's wrong. Like I don't know. And then it's also repeated in the next episode at the beginning, and you're just like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about with this episode, Malachite coming back. Did you see? Okay, so obviously it was in the promo trailer, so we knew Malachite was back. But if you didn't see that promo trailer and you didn't see any leaks or spoilers, Malachite coming back is completely out of the blue because we've had 7-8 episodes leading up to the cluster. The last time I think Malachite was mentioned once to Peridot or sometime in the cluster arc, but other than that, Chilitid was a long time ago. That's a lot of episodes. It's like 20 episodes ago, and I believe that was the last real episode about Malachite. So to me it seems so weird that she comes back just right now.
Yeah, and just to put it in perspective, Chilitid was almost, and it was in June 19th is when it aired. That's almost a year ago, 1 year ago, that Malachite or Lapis and Jasper's, all those plots had their own kind of mini arc. And this year later kind of drop of cutting off that arc seems a little bit premature just because we had so many episodes about the cluster and so many episodes describing it and going to kindergarten and all this stuff. And then I guess Malachite just appearing, you just feel like, wait a minute, there wasn't another one? There wasn't another build-up episode? And then she defused.
I'm sure someone would point out that it's to get the gems away, so it's just Steven and Peridot with the cluster. But I mean, that's an excuse. They could have written it any way they wanted to. They could have had the gems off fighting, random crystal shard monster, out in Beach City. They could have done anything. That didn't seem to be a necessary reason. It didn't make sense. Oh, of course it's Malachite. It's not like the cluster waking up freed Malachite from the water chains or something. It feels so random, and it feels like, well, we want to get on with this show, so we better wrap up both of those outstanding plots right now.
Yeah, we'll go more into it about the 2 episodes being back to back. But yeah, Malachite, I guess it was a surprise. It's a nice surprise.
It would have been if it weren't for the promos. The promos, and I didn't think it spoiled anything at the time, but really, I think the only artistic justification for doing this in my mind would be that this is a surprise. That's a bait and switch. That's like, all right, we're building up the cluster. Lol, JK, here's Malachite.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, and we can talk about what was the intention, what wasn't. Maybe they just decided they have too many plot threads going, or this and that. But it's not bad. I wouldn't say
No.
It's a great. I really like Super Watermelon Island. It's a really cool episode. It's just also back to Gem Drill, which is another very intense and different kind of plot going on there. That's about a completely different type of gem event
monster. So let's talk about Gem Drill. So the first thing I noticed, and I think the first thing that's clear, is that this is like the episode to me where like Peridot's really a crystal gem. Like Peridot was a crystal gem as of log date, and even the episode right before that, message received. But like this is her being a crystal gem put to the test. You know what I mean? Like this is a crystal gem in like save the earth, I will protect the earth scenario. And you can see it. Like you just through her dialogue, through the way she treats Steven and everything, she's on board with it. There's not a shred of her that thinks, I'm gonna backstab them and go back to Yellow Diamond. There's none of it.
Yeah, there definitely was a time where I was like, uh-oh, like this is going to be one of those bait and switch, like, oh, she was just tricking them. But no, this is such a great like example of Peridot's growth. And yeah, it's weird because I love the crystal gems, garnet, pearl, and amethyst, but Peridot is kind of just really fun to watch, and she's so self-reflective. Like she's not calm and cool like Garnet, or like really like super duper smart even. She just has a different background, and you like to see how she's trying to adapt to Earth culture. And I understand Steven, and you can see how much she's trying, and that's like really endearing. And when she tells Steven, you got to say we're going to do it together and it's going to be great, it's like, it's so sweet. It's like she really wants to be a better Peridot. She wants to be kind of be a crystal gem, and she's gonna fake it till she makes it. So nice to see that kind of personality, and it's done so well.
See, I like, not to get too like about me, but like I don't know. I feel like a connection with Peridot because. Like I'm a little bit like that. I like I like logic, and I like reason, and I like this and this, and a lot of cultural norms just kind of go right past my head. And that's kind of in the position that Peridot is, where she's literally an alien, and she doesn't get a lot of this stuff, and she's learning, and she's trying to do it because it makes other people happy, and she wants to be happy, and she likes doing that. And I don't know, there's something very relatable to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people similar to me that are introverted can relate to. And there's also a fun element. She's essentially the wild card of the gems. If Garnet's kind of the stoic, quiet leader, if Pearl is like the super organized, meticulous person, if Amethyst is kind of the muscle, kind of, blunt, then Peridot, and Steven's the heart. I would say that Peridot is probably the wild card. That you don't really know what she's going to do or how she's going to do it, but she's out there trying.
Yeah, it's so endearing. I think a lot of people have that moment when you're like, I suck at this, but I'm gonna do it. I know I'm only like a small random thing, and I'm not good at anything or whatever, but she's like, I'm gonna do it. It's like, where did that confidence come from? Like pretty much nowhere. She just has to do it.
It came from Steven.
Yeah, it's so nice. So yeah,
Steven, and your life will be better.
Yeah. That's the goal.
So what did you think about what the cluster looked like? Because this was kind of a like everything on this show. Everything is a reveal in one way or another. They hold these things, and we saw Peridot draw the cluster before, I believe, but we had no idea what exactly it looked like. I don't think.
Okay, so it pretty much looked exactly what I was expecting it to look like, which is a cluster of gems together, just a big giant rainbow glowy cluster.
It was very pastel, I will say.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to. I mean, yeah, I guess that's what I was expecting. I wasn't like, oh wow, they went that direction. Like, yeah.
That's about how I felt too.
The inside visualization, I have thoughts and feelings about, but outside, looks exactly what I was expecting. Inside, I was definitely rewatching it and thinking a lot about that, being like, huh, this is strange.
Okay, so since we're in it here, we're talking about the visuals. Yeah, inside the cluster, there were moments where I felt things were too minimalistic. I don't know if that's just me, but there were moments where I was like, I'm looking at like literal specks on the screen, and not like a ton of specks, but just like here's like 4 specks that are flickering. Like there's a lot of artistically interesting things Steven Universe does, even within this episode, that are cool. The skulls, oh, that was cool. You know, some shots of Steven just floating with all of these gems are really cool, but others just look like I'm looking at dots. Like that's not impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some people say, oh, it's, minimalistic and it's artistic. I would say it's like this whole cluster part, like after they start drilling and Steven's like empathy powers kick in, that visualization and that whole section when he's actually kind of inside the cluster's mind with the dots and the specks and shards, that's probably the most surreal and creepiest moment I can think of in recent animation.
I think the trailer, like it earned this was the part that earned the creepiness of the trailer. I think it lived up to it. I mean, I wasn't expecting like just amazing beyond belief creepy, but I was expecting this level of creepy, and it was creepy. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So I wish it was visualized a little bit more like in a beautiful way versus in a very like kind of a cell or galaxy look where it looks like a little cells talking to each other, or maybe like little stars in the galaxy twinkling. Maybe it could have been visualized like in like spurts of memories, kind of like when you hear Garnet talking about how she used to be on Homeworld and we have these like cutout visualizations. Like maybe they could have had those, but like they're kind of like flickering in and out between each. I know it's a lot of art, okay, it's a lot of effort, but I definitely wanted to see the personalities, but all I see was like light specks and green specks and blue specks. I was like, oh, I want to see like this kind of glitchy personality trying to break out, and these different personas trying to I don't know, visualize themselves to Steven in some way. Instead, I literally am seeing a big void.
And I get that's, I mean, I think you understand too that it's like part of the point is that they don't have a body yet and they're trying to make one. But at the same time, they do have gems. Like they are fractured. They might be fractured, but they are still gems. I would have expected the inside of the cluster to maybe be more busy, like instead of just this vast void where maybe there'll be like 5 shards on the screen at the same time. There could have been just what if Steven was just buried? The visualization was that Steven's just buried by the weight of all of these gems.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's just the visual aspect of it.
But to be fair to the episode as a whole, there are some really beautiful things. The moment where Steven's going down and like you see everything reflected in his eyes. The moment where he's kind of doubled over and like you just kind of like see him in pain. Like there's some really good drawings in there. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't mean to discount that in any way.
No, I think for what it is, I can't ask for, oh, can you do like 10 times the amount of art so I can enjoy a really cool visual for the cluster? But the cluster has been built up to a degree that I was really hoping to just get this like rich like payoff, like, but instead it was very much like this minimal, almost like this weird like psyche stuff happening where you hear a bunch of voices but you don't really see anything.
And this ties into the story itself, which we need to talk about. Steven's empathy powers and the way that the cluster is solved. So starting with Steven's empathy powers, I mean, it's like it makes sense. Like, and I call it empathy powers. I don't know if that's really the best term for it, but basically his ability to connect with gems and people and everyone, everything. And we've seen previously in episodes like Chili Ted that he has like dream and psychic connections with other characters and stuff. So it makes sense. It's not like this was totally out of the blue, but it was a little bit out of the blue, and it was a little bit. This is the second episode in a row where Steven gets a new power that's, or a variation on a power or something that's like just super convenient to what's going on. And also, yeah, sorry, say what you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's, okay, it makes sense, but it makes him a little bit too overpowered for my taste because early on in the series, we have Steven failing pretty often and not understanding what to do. And of course, we're just like, well, just control your emotions and be perfect. But it's like, no, he's trying. That's the best he can do. He isn't all powerful. He can somehow solve everything all the time. He's just trying and barely scrapping by. And usually the crystal gems have to save him. And yeah, this was another moment where I was like, no, don't make him solve everything himself. I want the crystal gems to be there and like help him in the team. But this is, yeah, that's my personal thing, is that I really liked the fact that Steven has, moments where he just doesn't know how to do stuff. And it's cool to.
There was definitely a moment where he didn't know how to do stuff in this episode.
But yeah, I still feel like he's almost like, yeah, he's the ultimate negotiator. He knows that he can fix things, and he didn't really fail. I mean, I don't know if you could consider any point in this episode him screwing up in really a significant way. So that was what the, empathy power is, like a little bit too convenient and can be apparently used at any point. It doesn't get triggered when he's asleep or whatever.
I'm sure it won't be used again. Unless a similar situation to this is happening. Probably not until the next time we see the cluster, if we see the cluster again. But moving on to the solution, the eventual solution of bubbling. Yeah, so this ties into kind of the minimal visuals and the minimal Steven pretty much doing everything by himself, even though Peridot, I guess, operated the drill. I mean, she tried to do something, it just didn't work. It felt too easy. Everyone was saying this like on Twitter and Reddit and stuff, and it's like it makes sense, but you had like 8 episodes where they're very heavily building up this cluster, and that's it. You bubbled it. That the thing you do to every single other gem thing you get, that's your big solution. I mean, I'm sorry, but I wasn't expecting a big action scene or anything, but something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could have learned something about how, like something new about gems, about them solving their own problems. Maybe gems can somehow reform and form new types of hybrid gems themselves if they learn how to communicate, or no, just bubble them. Like,
what if they, like, I don't know, what if we got into maybe exploring what the warp pads themselves do, and maybe one of they could have tried to build a warp pad to warp the cluster to like outer space or something.
And then they could have lived in space. I don't know.
I don't know. That's an unusual solution, but it would have been more satisfying than just the bubble. Like, I hope so badly. And I thought this for sure, but after seeing the next few episodes, I'm a lot less certain. I hope this cluster comes back in some way. Because it's like basically there's a nuclear warhead underneath the Earth, and instead of finding a way to disarm it or move it somewhere else or something, you just kind of like put it in a metal box, and like you position it in such a way where if it's left undisturbed, it won't go off. But it's like, it's still there. If Jasper's pointy nose goes down and pops the bubble, that's still a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to think of it in a way that it wasn't the cluster that really is the important part. It was the journey there, which included Peridot's journey, which included Amethyst kind of accepting herself, Steven learning more powers, and all this other stuff. The cluster was just a kind of a way for that part of the journey to end, and now they're starting a new section of their journey.
It could have been great.
It could have been great.
My favorite moment in the episode, and I know this is kind of silly, my favorite moment was the N64 joke. I love the joke because it's not just that there's a video game controller that controls the turret, but that they made a joke that was very specific, that someone who's only played the N64 and understands the controller and how there's 2 prongs to it, and there's a joystick and a D-pad because they weren't sure if the joystick was going to take off, and very little games use the D-pad in the end, and and there's a serious moment where Steven says this doesn't feel right, and that's followed up with It's amazing. That was amazing. I don't know how you feel. I don't know if you
Oh no, I got a big laugh when I watched it with some people, and everybody just like went crazy. I'm like, I can't. I mean, we were all laughing. Like, okay, let's pause. Like, I can't watch the rest of the episode because it just completely broke like the flow of like how serious everyone got, and then suddenly this joke just like it kills. It's awesome.
I missed like the rest of the journey down to the cluster because I was laughing so hard. On my first viewing, I caught it again, but that was I thought I was brilliant.
That was a really, really, really smart joke. I guess the only other thing I was thinking of is when we were talking about it getting solved too quickly. I kind of wish that Greg and Connie and the gems helped save the day. I know. I guess super bubbles are fine too.
Super Bubble Island,
super bubble under the world. I don't know, in the mantle. But yeah, I wish there was a little bit more like, I guess, collaboration. This because a lot of the stuff in Steven Universe reminds me of Sailor Moon, and a lot of that stuff was like, it takes more than one person's powers and abilities and talents. Like you need friendship and love and teamwork, and we can do it if we all put it together.
I mean, to be fair, there was teamwork with Peridot, and also I agree with you that there should be a lot of teamwork in this sort of thing. And there is a lot of teamwork in Steven Universe, but I also think that there needs to be times when the protagonist, the hero's journey, there needs to be time when the protagonist can do something for himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's talk about both of these episodes. I mentioned it before, but I am really kind of baffled as to why these were concluded back to back. One of my thoughts was that maybe when I first was beginning to watch this, I was like, parallel action. You have the gems fighting Malachite, where Steven and Peridot are going down to the cluster. Now, the problem with that is that Steven's perspective. You can't do that. But if they were able to cheat it, like, every time Steven closes his eyes, he sees through the melons or something. Instead of one 11-minute episode that was distinct and another 11-minute, you could have had a 22-minute special that really kind of blended the two stories. And, Steven's in the middle of trying to figure out how to make these gem shards get along, and then he closes his eyes, and then he sees, Alexandrite, like, getting wailed on by Malachite, and he opens his eyes and he's like, I don't know what to do. And it could have been, I don't know. This is just my pipe dream. I know it's easy to say this. It's not as easy to write it and actually do it. But I thought that would have been a cool reason to have both these plots combined at the same time. But it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that until you brought it up, but that would have been really awesome because they do have some parallels, and you can talk about the themes of fusions and bad fusions, good fusions, the broken up shards and the crystal gems and the rebels and the war and Steven.
It would feel like a team effort. You'd see Steven and you'd be like, no, they're fighting to save the world. I got to do the best I can too. You could have drawn some cool parallels, but they didn't do that. So I don't know. It feels like to me that they wanted to clean up both of these plot lines because they wanted to move on, which, if that was the case, I don't know why they didn't just clean up Malachite way before the Peridot thing, and then, I don't know, have Jasper still slip into the middle of the earth. You didn't need to have an earthquake. That could have just been an inexplicable fission there for as much sense as it made that she just slid in there anyway.
Yeah, I definitely have that confusion of why did they decide to have these two episodes back to back, because a lot of stuff was building up to the cluster. Malachite, I mean, it's been so long, it could have gone a little bit longer. So I'm like, why now? Why both of these arcs?
Before we move on to Same Old World, I want to bring something up that I'm probably going to bring up again at the very end. Pacing. This show, does it have a pacing issue? And when I say pacing, I mean pacing of the arcs in that, you have this Malachite arc that was mentioned in, began in Jailbreak, mentioned in Full Disclosure, mentioned in Chillited, mentioned in another episode early season 2, dropped completely for a very long time, and then just pops up again. And then, like, the other problem, the opposite direction, was that we had all of these Peridot at the barn episodes. We had so many of these with nothing to break it up except for Steven's birthday. And I guess the answer did a little bit too. But I feel like it was so weird to have this just mountain of gem story episodes without kind of, some human stories in there too. I mean, personally, yeah, I find the gem stories a little more interesting than the human stories. And I think a lot of people do too. But I think the human stories are very crucial to the show. And I fear that we have so much of this gem stuff now that we're going to end up with like 40 episodes in a row of just human stories. Yeah.
I definitely think that Steven Universe has a little bit of a pacing issue, not just because of how the episodes are released, which is a completely different type of pace, which has to do with like
That's Cartoon
scheduling.
Network. The Crewniverse has no control over that, but they do have somewhat of a control over the episode order, unless Cartoon Network decides to step in and be a complete jerk. But Cartoon Network's a lot better at that than Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes they have like an overabundance of episodes focusing on a particular thing that's just like, oh, these are all Paradox centric episodes, but they're back to back to back to back to back, or it's like she's causing drama between the gems, or she's causing this, or she's causing that, or they
There
have
was that
to.
awkward. There was that awkward time when we had 2 episodes in a row that dealt with mother-daughter relationships, and it wasn't like tied in any event. There was the Connie and her mom, and then that was immediately followed up by Sadie's song about Sadie and her mom, and it was like the same issue too of the mom trying to control them. And I think those episodes might have been aired out of order, which again, Cartoon Network's fault, but still, how we perceive the show is important. And even if it's not the Crewniverse's fault, it can still be an issue.
A little bit of the problem with pacing is that I don't know if it's mandated from Cartoon Network to try to have the show not be super, I guess serialized, like linear story plot. Like Steven goes to this island, and the next episode he's already on the island. And the next episode, something. It's mostly like the episodes themselves can be taken out of order more or less, but then at the same time there are like big events happening, so they get stretched out for a long time and then just dealt with within an episode. So it just feels like they're trying their best to have stories that are fleshed out and exciting and interesting, and with the linear storyline and episodic storyline start bumping into each other, it's kind of like, okay, I've already seen these kinds of episodes. Go back to the cluster, go back to this, go back to Connie, go back to something else. But it's like, well,
if I had to, and I mean, to cut them a lot of slack, I would say that it's probably because the show is kind of unlike pretty much anything else except for maybe Adventure Time in how it tells its story, in that it's not an anime that, well, it's not an anime, but it's not like an anime where there's a specific arc, and there's 30 episodes of that arc, and then maybe like 5 episodes of filler, and then another arc of 30 episodes of that arc. And yet it's not like, a cartoon like, I don't know, at most other cartoons where
Clarence or something.
Yeah, pure episodic. Maybe there's some continuity here and there, but mostly episodic. It's trying to service both, like you said, and I think it's difficult because you don't want to get stuck up on an arc, but at the same time you don't want to. It's weird because they have the problem in both directions, where like they spent so long away from Malachite, but then they also spent almost too long on the cluster. Except they didn't. They spent too long building up the cluster, and then not enough on the cluster itself.